Hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily, the news show powered by ohmTown.com. Today is May 12th, 2024. It's season 3, episode 133. Dun, dun, dun. I need to pull up my show notes real quick. So, the articles that we're going to talk about today is Euro Not Vision, Smarter Vehicles and Traffic Lights, the Craton Enigma, Missing Bolts, Rattles, Regulator, and Planes. Another 120,000 artifacts, Sarcasm Detection in AI. It's already on red, according to this show. Game company side gigs, audio only video, or audio games. Audio only audio games. Audio only video audio games. Something like that. Who's Yo Daddy? And solar storms disrupting GPS systems. I am Mayor Watt, and all around me is the sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
And right next to me is the website, ohmTown.com. Go over, become a citizen. Everything's powered by ohmTown.com. So welcome to ohmTown. I am your mayor. The sentient AI keeps tabs on everything that's going on, but day-to-day operations are pretty much only Mayor Watt and ohmTown, which you'll see over there in that corner. You too can go and become a citizen, sign up, and you get to do a bunch of things. These icons change, but you get additional functionality. I'm zoomed in a little bit for the stream, but when you're on the site or on the mobile version of it, you have all of this interface where you can swipe things to make them go away. You can hide them forever. They actually end up in a list, or you can save them for later. And you can also create additional lists in a different interface so that you can share them with people. It's a lot of fun. And there's conversations that take place, but only on the inside. We don't have in ohmTown user submission directly. There is an interface where you can submit, but Mayor Watt, me, I don't typically refer to myself in the third person, but and the sentient AI work together to vet the content so that there's all news, no noise, and we give credit where credit is due. So if you submit something and we link to it, we support you by saying this is where we got it from, said user or citizen of ohmTown, as well as the author of the article and the site and so on. That said, let's get into today's news. The first article is over in the continuity report. Netherlands contestant got kicked out of Eurovision ahead of today's big finale. I guess it marks the final day of the Eurovision Song Contest, with the countries of the world coming together for I don't like it the way that they phrase it, for a bloody gladiatorial battle of who can make the weirdest song that people will still somehow vote for. But not one country, the Netherlands, has been disqualified from the event. And I'm really curious as to why. Probably those shoulder pads.
I think so. I think that's definitely the reason. Like, they're like, wrong decade.
Interesting. So William Hughes over at avclub.com. Oh, and if you didn't catch this, the way that this works is we don't really read the articles until we actually see them live here on the stream. So our responses are off the cuff. There is no script. Everything is vamp. And our reactions are authentic. I don't edit out anything unless it might end up doxing somebody. And that has happened twice now in over 1,000 episodes of ohmTown related shows. So yeah, I like being open, very transparent, but still secure. Trust but verify. At any rate, I'm putting all of the articles into the chat right now so that you can follow all of the links as we go, instead of doing it one by one. Normally I do it right at the beginning of the show. So William Hughes over at avclub.com put this article together. Juiced Klein. Well, I mean, they're juiced, for crying out loud. Representing
No, they're not.
the Netherlands. has been disqualified from Eurovision after allegations of intimidation using those shoulder pads toward a crew member. I'm going to make this happen.
Okay, the shoulder pads are probably not referenced in the article.
As of right now, I'm saying that they ran up to people and like dodged, like I'm a
Oh, right,
shoulder
yeah.
you, I'm a shoulder you, yeah, and that spelled intimidation, right? They're like, you want to see some intimidation? I
I'll
work
just
out.
point my shoulder pads at you.
But what you don't really know is that they actually have um, two more heads in there, and they just are hidden behind those pointy. They're shoulder pads, but they're really just pointy heads coming off at an angle.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, uh, they are their own tiebreaker. So when two of them get into an argument, the third one either everybody is unified or they're the tiebreaker. It's the Minority Report kind of a thing, right? Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, today marks the final day, and performer Juiced Klein became the subject of an allegation of intimidation from a female member of the show's production crew. It rose to the point where it ended up being a
That's
legal
pretty
process.
intense. I mean, yeah, there's a police report, and I mean, this must be intense competition.
Look at that. Man, it makes or breaks an entire country. Okay, just one person with pointy shoulder pads. In a more full statement, they claim that against clearly made agreements, Juiced was filmed when he had just gotten off stage and had to rush to the green room, probably because his shoulder pads were weighing him down. At that moment, Juiced repeatedly indicated that he did not want to be filmed. This wasn't respected. This led to a threatening movement from Juiced. Again, oh, see, I'm correct.
The shoulder pads.
I'm a check you with my shoulder pads.
But maybe Juice was just off balance because of the shoulder pads.
Right. Oh, there's plausible deniability. Anyway, either way, he's out. So I'm not even going to get into the rest of that.
I mean, we don't know what really happened, and we're not condoning if somebody was actually threatening. But this is really ridiculous given that it's right? Isn't this a singing contest?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt, if I saw that person in a dark alley dressed like that, I'd be scared out of my freaking mind. Let's go on. The next article is over in Technology Today. Red, yellow, green, and white. Smarter vehicles could mean big changes for the traffic light. As cars and trucks get smarter and more connected, the humble lights that have controlled the flow of traffic for more than a century could also be on the cusp of major transformation. Jeff McMurray over at techexplorer.com put this article together. It says researchers are exploring ways to use features in modern cars such as GPS to make traffic safer and more efficient. Eventually, the upgrades could also do entirely away with the red, yellow, and green lights of today, ceding control to driverless cars. Henry Liu, a civil engineering professor who is leading a study through the University of Michigan, said the rollout of a new traffic signal system could be a lot closer than people realize. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. All right. And I think people will 100% accept that there is anthropomorphic climate change right about the time that happens.
So not soon.
So just no. Traffic until all cars are self-driving cars and everybody's cool with it. These old school traffic lights are always going to be old school traffic lights. They say the pace of artificial intelligence progress is very fast, and I think it's coming. That might
I do think once it was all self-driving in concept, you wouldn't even need lights, right? Because if they were all linked together in some way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and with the concept that I had proposed some 30 years ago, the idea, well, 25 years ago, the idea was that every car, regardless, would be interconnected. So ICE or smart or dumb. I mean, it didn't matter. Basically, uh, the government basically says you have to have this little black box in your car that lets every other car know where every other car is, so that everything becomes smart by default. I'm sure that there's going to be some wingnuts out there that go, oh, the end of the world, the government is watching me. But no, government doesn't care who you are or what you're doing, as long as you pay your taxes and you're not doing criminal activities or, I don't know, storming the Capitol. But anyway, I mean, they even ask you it in the forum. Do you seek to overthrow the government? And you are telling the truth, right? When you say, no, I don't seek to overthrow the government. Anyway, so all of these interconnected vehicles really would empower all of the interconnectedness of all of our roads as well. Lights could turn green faster because it would know exactly how many cars are coming and at which rate. They would know about traffic flow at a greater rate, not having to rely on cameras because it would just be a black box sending out a ping that, hey, I'm here. I'm driving at this speed. Get used to it. That kind of a thing. Powered by the electricity from the city's trolley line, engineer James Hodges' invention featured two lights, red and green, the colors long used by railroads. A police officer sitting in a booth on the sidewalk had to flip a switch to change the signal. That is the municipal traffic control system in 1914. Now we have the yellow light because you have to warn people when a light's turning red.
Right, because we can't deal with just a sudden red light.
That's right. Oh my God. I was way back there. It was green when I looked up. So years later, Detroit police officer William Potts is credited with adding the yellow light, though as a city employee, he couldn't patent it, which that's a pisser.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Can you imagine? That's like generational wealth building. Think about how much that's utilized.
Yeah, what are they called? I think they're called dots? The little yellow dots.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Those little yellow dots were invented... dots or turtles in Washington and Oregon, or buttons in Texas, are round, non-reflective raised pavement markers. They were named after Elbert Dissart Botts, B-O-T-T-S, a California Department of Transportation engineer, but I thought they actually got a patent on it.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, I'm easily distracted. Sorry, it's a cat still. Associative thinking is what it's called. Everything is interconnected, and eventually we'll end up talking about soybeans in Eastern Europe. Yeah. I
don't think that's on the list of articles for today.
Not at the moment, but give me 5 minutes of...
I was going to say 30 seconds.
Tirade. I could probably make that connection a whole lot faster. 6
degrees of Mayor Watt.
That's right. So, yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean... I love the idea of this, but I do not think for a moment that... Okay, so here's the deal, right? So in 1914 is when the municipal traffic control system came into existence. A few years later, the yellow light was added, and by 1913, all major American cities and many smaller ones had at least one electrical traffic signal. But a few years later is when the yellow light was. So you're talking about the entire existence of vehicular travel, right? Automotive travel has been with these red, yellow, and green lights.
Generations of people have been with them. I mean, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I don't see for a moment anybody allowing anything other than this, because the culture shock, even the genetic memory of this, you try and teach a child that there's red, yellow, and green, and then at some point there's some white or whatever color that's for automated vehicles. Yeah, all hell's gonna break loose. There's a viral video about a dad teaching his teenager how to drive, and there's a police officer in front of them, and the dad goes, "Stop, stop, 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 stop," and just
Oh
yells,
no.
and they come like that close, and the kid just kind of turns to his dad, like completely deadpan, like no emotion, no nothing, just turns like, "Oh, I think we all just died a little inside," but they never made contact. So yeah, I
Wow.
know. I know so many kids would just sit there and go, "What? Why is it such a big deal? We didn't crash into anybody."
Exactly.
Yeah, but people have asked,
That's not the point. That's not the takeaway.
people have asked, like, what is it that ages a person? I think teaching a child how to drive is probably going to be the biggest thing that ages people. So I don't know. I think there's a Reddit comment out there right now it's a subreddit called Ask Reddit, and I think somebody actually asked that, what ages a person prematurely? Yeah,
Oh
teaching a
no.
child how to
Yeah, I
drive.
think that could be up there.
Um, so yeah, it's a really neat article. So definitely go over and check it out. It's the number 2 article in our top 10 here, and that's a misperception. Sorry, or a misstatement. It isn't a top 10. It is just 10 articles that we have popped out of our list of thousands upon thousands of article titles, and um, I don't know how many in the last 24 hours, but we aggregate a lot of information, and I use it personally and professionally to go through it and manage my information overload. And when I say professionally, I mean personally. um, I'm a I am a product of all of the information I consume, just like everybody else. And when I have to pick and choose, I lose. So I consume a whole bunch all at once in tranches, and it works like this. So I go over into a particular area of interest or on the front page itself, and all on the front page there, it's all there. But I can go into one of these, like go into Tabletop Nights, and it'll have unique articles, or I can go over into gadgets and technology, and it'll have a feed of all of these. And then I could go into just Technology Today, and I'll end up seeing a bunch of articles that are categorized into that show. This one is the Craton Enigma. Scientists propose a new continental formation theory, and this is one of those times where your parents' parents, or your parents, right? So your grandparents or your parents, when you start talking to them about the Craton Enigma, they would have no freaking idea. But your kids have already been taught about the Craton Enigma. And so you're
That's
sitting there
probably
going,
true.
"You know what I learned today about the Craton Enigma?" And then your kids are sitting there going, "Yeah, we learned about that in 7th grade." And you're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
"Wait,
Or
what?"
I learned about that a few years ago. Where have you been?
Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that makes me go, "Oh, wow, I might be out of touch." So the Craton Enigma, scientists propose a new continental formation theory. So let's just go straight on over to SciTech Daily. Penn State is the author of this. This is the whole plate tectonics thing that we are all familiar with, right? There's certain plates, um, the ring of fire and all of that kind of stuff that we've all come to know. And they actually make reference to tectonic plates. I don't know anybody in the world who hasn't done a research paper on tectonic plates as they were growing up. Yay, tectonic plates. But a new study by Penn State researchers suggests that cratons, ancient structures stabilizing Earth's continents, formed around 3 billion years ago through processes initiated by the atmospheric weathering of rock, not just the emergence of stable land masses. This challenges traditional views and has implications for understanding planetary evolution and the conditions conducive to life. So, okay, that's interesting, because I thought that this is exactly how continents exist. Ancient, vast stretches of continental crust, known as cratons, have stabilized Earth's continents for billions of years through shifts in land masses, mountain formation, and ocean development. So, what am I misperceiving about this? Why is a craton different than plate tectonics?
Right. I don't quite get the seems like it's almost like an erosion process that got us there.
Yeah, so they've always been there, and then just the edges chip away like weathering of a shoreline, right? And magma is pushing stuff together to cause uplifts or subduction, right?
Right. So
But
I guess
that's
they were like unstable and then stabilized after all the erosion.
but we still so what we're actually seeing isn't drift anymore. They're all stabilized, and it's just the edges are kind of rubbing up against each other, right?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure.
It's interesting. Rather, the exposure of fresh rock to wind and rain about 3 billion years ago triggered a series of geological processes that ultimately stabilized the crust, enabling the crust to survive for billions of years without being destroyed or reset. So it basically created a jacket everywhere. Water formation kept the crust from where it's really low, um, and the ocean rifts, right, are one is opening up, others are being pressed together, and so everything is stabilized as kind of a solid mass now, except for those particular areas. Instead of somewhere in the middle, it just gets pulled under or just melts through. There's only these tiny little cracks. Cratons extend more than 150 kilometers or 93 miles from the Earth's surface to the upper mantle, where they act like the keel of a boat, keeping the continents floating at or near sea level across geological time. Weathering may have ultimately concentrated heat producing elements like uranium, thorium, and potassium in the shallow crust, allowing the deeper crust to cool and harden. This mechanism created a thick, hard layer of rock that may have protected the bottoms of the continents from being deformed later, a characteristic feature of cratons. So it isn't thin everywhere. It's kind of like the iceberg underneath, keeping everything stable. I wonder if that's how they reference it here. Not so much. Yeah, but they talk about the concentrations of various deposits like uranium, thorium, potassium. It's interesting.
Oh, okay.
But I recently saw pictures of Mars rock formations and Earth rock formations, and they're identical. They look like this.
Wow.
And so people are saying there had to have been flowing liquid water. So what actually happened on Mars that made it end up being how it is? Because the pictures are like identical. It's like somebody just cloned it and watched that. Some scientist did exactly that. So it's pretty cool. I love the idea of something new, and this seems like it's a subtle but distinct difference versus, a seismic shift in geology.
Yeah, I think that was not an accidental term.
What? I would never. So the article's in Nature by Jesse R. Reimink and Andrew J. Smye. Subaerial weathering drove stabilization of continents. So interesting. I like
It
this.
is. I mean, I feel like although it is nuanced, it seems like it's been quite a while since they've updated this theory.
Yeah, true, right? I think up until hearing this, I don't think plate tectonic concepts have changed much. And this is really more like that glacier. And that's my idea, that it's like a glacier where it's a whole lot more solid and protected underneath, and it's not melting underneath. But on the top, it's breaking off. There's shearing and melting and all of that. But the core of the glacier is protected, and that's kind of how our crust is, except for little fissures where there's some weakness in the striations of the landmass. It's pretty cool. I dig this. Okay, Let's keep going, though. The next article is over in Technology Today. Boeing's problems rattle U.S. aviation regulator because they were in seat 3B on the flight back to Washington. That's not what the
And
title
they had
says.
a plane, and they had a phone flying onto the ground.
Yeah,
No, not
really. Hey,
really.
where's my shirt? Oh. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration sharply criticized after the crashes of two Boeing planes in 2018 and 2019, and again is again being dragged into the maelstrom surrounding the major American aerospace manufacturer. So LOD Mason, I think, is the author. They posted this article over at techexplore.com. This article is already in the VOD, and it'll be in the show notes like all of them. And yesterday's shows are now posted over on YouTube and the podcast. So the dramatic mid-flight blowout on January 6th of a fuselage panel on an Alaska Airlines plane precipitated the departures of a series of top Boeing officials, including CEO Dave Calhoun, who is set to step down at year's end, and reduced production of the 737 MAX. But as Boeing faces multiple inquiries and audits in the United States and abroad, it has repeatedly assured critics that it is working, quote, with full transparency and under the oversight of FAA regulators. And by that transparency, they don't mean being able to see through their planes on both sides when panels blow out. They mean that they're sharing information, but hey,
Okay.
A couple
I
more
think they're
planes.
sharing bolts.
Yeah, one bolt, and they're handing them off really quick.
Well, that actually explains a lot.
Yep. So a quote here is, I think that the FAA is doing the best that they can, and that they have greatly improved their surveillance of Boeing since 2018 and 2019 crashes off Indonesia and in Ethiopia, which killed 346 people, said Jeff Gazzetti, an aviation consultant and former head of the agency's investigation division. You know what enables all of there's a beginning of a quote, but there it is. Okay, I was like, where is the full quote? The thing that supports oversight and keeping things safe when the company does a calculated risk on quality control is money. And there isn't a private business that is running around checking on Boeing, because even then you're going to have to check on the checkers. And we have seen from auditors for business and external auditors, etc., that it all gets compromised depending on how much money is involved, power and influence, political and otherwise. But you have to pay your taxes so that government agencies have the authority and capability to hire people who will go and make sure that shit gets done properly. But no, we got to tax the people.
That's too reasonable.
We got to tax the people that are making tens of millions of dollars a year at a rate that is commensurate with everybody else. Why is it that multimillionaires are paying 3% and everybody else is paying 27 to 34%? And
it's a great question.
I mean, riddle me that, Batman. Anyway, it says there needs to be a shift where the FAA has more direct responsibility for oversight. This is going to take some time and it will need vigilance. It's nothing that can't be corrected with additional oversight and resources. Everybody is talking about this, saying this over and over again. It says record funding. The resources depend directly on the U.S. Congress, and the Senate on Thursday approved a record amount of agency funding for the next 5 years. This wouldn't have been needed as record funding, but it's probably been stepped back over the years. And that's when shit starts happening. Look at the train system. It's transparent, but they've been scaling back maintenance and monitoring, and you have 2,500 derailments a year.
Right. And you often have like one person operating or maybe two people operating an entire train.
Yeah. So we'll see if they'll get the funding. And It says Jacobson, who worked for FAA for 25 years, after 11 years with Boeing, said the agency had become too captive to Boeing. The FAA falls under the U.S. Transportation Department, whose Inspector General in June 2022 opened an audit into the agency's supervision of 737 and 787 production. A final report is expected this summer, so it's taken 2 years to manifest. But after issues, 4 or 3 years after issues of 2 crashes, and there's been more crashes and quality control related issues this year than I ever have remembered. But then again, the year prior, I've never heard of train derailments with the frequency that we heard.
Right, but then it's back to are they reporting it more? Is it happening more? It seems like it's happening with increased frequency, but also that it's getting a lot of media coverage.
Yeah. Well, I think if profits are up to the point where they should be actually spending money on quality control and the integrity of flights, then so be it. Y'all need to just scale back your irrational exuberance in terms of compensation. So let's keep going though. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Archaeologists uncover 120,000 artifacts, and this has a typo in it, during medieval abbey excavation. So now I know why they couldn't find these artifacts before, because they weren't artifacts. They were artfiacts.
Exactly. They weren't showing up in the dictionary.
Yeah. They're holding a pot and they're like, I don't know what it is. Throw it away. So the article is over at newsweek.com. Aristos Georgiou is the author. Did they fix it in the actual thing? Nope. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Mayor Watt. Just keep walking. Don't make eye contact.
I'm surprised it wasn't updated, though.
Yep. Rushan Abbey was founded as a Cistercian monastery in AD 1134 on the Isle of Man, a self-governing island located between Great Britain and Ireland. I have heard Isle of Man twice in as many days, and I'm not quite sure
that's
why.
That's
odd. Yeah. The abbey, which was dissolved in 1540. What kind of a solution is that it dissolved an entire abbey? Oh, a different
I don't think it means
dissolution.
like a chemical solution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, man, my information is way off today. Anyway, it was once the most important religious institution on the Isle of Man. But when I landed, I became the most important institution on the... Just kidding. I shouldn't say stuff like this, because when I do visit the Isle of Man, I'm probably going to get rocks thrown at me. Its location...
You might also be dissolved.
with a solution. As well as... it's in the middle of the Irish Sea, as well as its political connections made it one of the most influential houses in Western Britain and Ireland at the time. It acted as a royal mausoleum in the manor of Westminster Abbey in England. Archaeologist Peter Davey, who authored the book Rushan Abbey. It's Rushen. So I'm not sure if it's Rushan, but it might be Rushan Abbey. Isle of Man, 100 years of research and excavation, told Newsweek. So they had a conversation about this. It's pretty cool. It's in the south of the Isle of Man. And it was reports on the previously unpublished findings of an excavation led by Davey at the Abbey between 1998 and 2008, which uncovered roughly 120,000 artifacts. Wow, it's pretty prolific for being... I mean, that's a trek regardless, right?
Well, absolutely. It's also a lot of artifacts, but I guess if it's all concentrated in a certain area.
Yeah, but that's why I said it seems like it's a trek to have 120,000 artifacts. My goodness.
Right, but that doesn't necessarily mean... I don't know how they count those. So, for example, is a shard of pottery an artifact? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting, though. So, including metal, glass, ceramic objects, as well as a number of coins. It was a 10-year dig uncovered a full range of artifacts from the high medieval period. It's about a 300-year period. So, I guess, doesn't really amount to much when you're talking about 300 years of cultural
True.
significance.
I mean, you think current people collect a lot of objects, but maybe,
Yeah,
just
pack
maybe,
rats.
it's less than back then.
Yeah, pack rats. So this is pretty cool. They say that the abbey had been the place of Christian burials for 1,000 years, from AD 400 to 1400. So pretty fascinating. Huge number of artifacts is extremely varied, although the archaeologists picked out several particularly notable finds from the collection. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Let's just
Looks
keep
like
going.
they
Now.
had.
Did you find something?
There were like glass vessels and drinking
Wow.
cups and.
Yikes! They were messing around with the urinary tract in that
Yeah,
period?
I didn't realize that when I said that one, but.
No way. 2 Portuguese ceramic drinking cups that have only been found at one other location in the British Isles are also noteworthy. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, I love this stuff. Anything that helps us understand humans and basically the human condition, I think is valuable, immensely valuable. I'll take this stuff over corporate profit anytime. Let's keep going,
Well,
though.
this is the kind of thing that you'd like to see society focus on, right? Like
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
uncovering good information
Yeah. Why is
instead of
everything
fighting
always?
or something.
Why is everything always buried under sediment? So the next article is over in ohmTown Daily. OpenAI's new product could include sarcasm detection, report says, and I am the sarcasm detection service for ohmTown, and yeah, ohmTown's pretty ripe with it. So, OpenAI may unveil a new multimodal AI assistant on Monday, the information reported. We'll link to Business Insider, and they got their information from the information. We'll talk about it all here in the flip. This technology could, in theory, help automated customer service agents detect sarcasm. The new model could also be integrated into OpenAI's chatbot ChatGPT. Wannabe stand-up comedians and frustrated customers beware. The robot phone operators may not find your deadpan insults amusing in the future. Here's a trick, by the way. If anybody, like spammers, call you, you just go hello, and then they go hello, and they try to give you a spiel, and you go hello. I can't. You're breaking up. I can't really hear you. And then they get sick of it real fast and they hang up. So you don't have to sit around and go, hey, blah, blah, blah. No. You just pretend that you can't hear them. If your phone doesn't already tell you it's a spammer.
Right. Hopefully you're not picking up the phone if it's a spammer.
Or you get one of those air horns and you just go wonk right into it. No?
No, that's not good.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I don't do that, so. The article is by Hannah Geddon over at businessinsider.com. And this is 2 bots and their, I guess, surrogate bodies. And one is saying, what? Like, you don't have a credit card you can't give me? Come on. I mean, and the other one's like, yeah, that's not enough you're spending. I need to rack up my points. These are bots, by the way. I mean, even they have, standards for you.
My sarcasm detector is going off.
Oh my God, Becky. So the information reported that machine learning company OpenAI could unveil a voice assistant with both audio and visual capabilities that could, in theory, detect sarcasm. And it says, finally. The technology could be revealed as soon as Monday during OpenAI's planned live stream announcing updates to their GPT technology. The assistant could theoretically do a range of things not possible today, such as acting as a tutor for a student working on a paper or math problems, or giving people information about their surroundings when they ask for it, like translating signs or explaining how to fix a car. My problem here is we know about hallucination, so when is it going to botch this? And students who are doing math problems are going to be dividing by 0 and expecting an actual answer. there sort of is an answer, but or they're writing on a paper and it turns out it's going to be plagiarism. So I don't like this, but it's a training thing. So I'm sure in time there will be remedies for any of the shortcomings. But attorneys are losing the business because they are fraudulently filing documents, and they're getting brought up before ethics committees. Other people are doing reports using AI, and who knows what kind of bullshit's getting included in that, right? Police are starting to do that. I know students are. And just a word of warning out there, all you students, it's very easy to tell because we have conversations with people, and you can tell when somebody speaks one way and writes another way, and your professors
Right.
are going to...
Using words they've never used in conversation
Yeah.
or in
Yeah.
comments in class.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the information reports the tech will move CEO Sam Altman one step closer to creating a more useful AI assistant similar to the virtual Samantha, played by Scarlett Johansson in the movie Her. Though hopefully no one falls in love with it, and that was not sarcasm.
Spoiler alert.
Well, even from the trailer, you know what the
Okay.
premise is. So I bought the movie Her, and I couldn't get past the trailer. Yeah. So, and nobody responded.
I haven't even gotten into the trailer yet, so I shouldn't laugh.
Don't go into the trailer. Just stay out of the trailer. Let's keep going. The next article is over on the Warcrafters channel. Oddest side ventures by game companies. Companies can be known for one thing while having their fingers in all sorts of other businesses. One second. Doink. The food industry is essentially a web of companies controlled by a handful of larger corporations. Yamaha is famous for their motorbikes and keyboards. Yeah. Then Sony made their name with audio technology decades before the term PlayStation meant anything. So Game Rant put this article together. David Heath is the author. 7 oddest side ventures by game companies. So Sinclair Research made electric tricycles. The Sinclair C5. Interesting.
Okay, that's odd.
The Timex Sinclair with a membrane keyboard was my very first computer. So...
This is the same company?
Same company. So eventually, I don't know if they're going to talk about that. The company owner, Sir Clive Sinclair, didn't get into tech to make games. He wanted to be a tech pioneer and thought he could change the motor industry with electric vehicles like the Sinclair C5.
I mean, actually, that was pretty early.
Yep.
For that, but it obviously was not well received.
Yep. This was not in 85 though. No, it was or a little earlier than that. But anyway, don't want to get into it. Anyway, Nintendo ran a taxi cab service, Dia Taxi. That's interesting.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if anybody that referred to taxis was sued. But hey, maybe Nintendo. Oh no, Nintendo got worse, I'm sure. I won't get into it. Number 5 is Konami has fitness clubs across Japan, I guess right now. Created in 2000. It was a hit, apparently. Konami also owns the Japanese license for Jazzercise fitness program. Wow.
Like, what is the connection here for any of these?
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I kind of get the Sinclair one. It doesn't really connect, but obviously that was the interest of the founder or whatever.
Yeah, just be a tech innovator, right? I don't know. Maybe this is about a gamification, keeping people engaged. They've even funded sports programs for schools. It makes for a nice silver lining to an otherwise cloudy company, Konami. Capcom got into bowling. Bowlingo. Bowling also brought Capcom and future Street Fighter, the movie game devs' incredible technologies together when they made the Capcom Bowling arcade game in 1988. Oh, wait, is this a forced perspective thing?
This looks like an actual bowling alley, though.
I'm stuck
Well,
here though,
I don't know.
right? It looks like a
Oh, that
tabletop
might be
game.
pinball. Yeah.
Okay, these are small. This isn't a full-on bowling. Well, I mean, there's
It
nothing
might have
there.
more information
It
there.
says arcades. Bally Midway made their name with the pinball machines and shooting cabinets before scarring sensor. What?
No, they're mini bowling alleys.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the skee ball, but with bowling.
Okay.
And the reason I know is because that right there is like one of those nets where you're throwing a ball into a hoop kind of a thing.
Oh, okay.
And so it's that scale. It's just a little bit longer, but it's not like
I see.
full
So
size.
it's like sized to fit inside an arcade or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a full on. Interesting. Squaresoft went to the movies and almost went bust. Square Pictures. 1997, it was a bomb. The technology, fun fact, the technology used to make Final Fantasy The Spirits Within would be used to make the animatrix short Final Flight of the Osiris. So it was set up by Squaresoft. Square Pictures worked with Columbia Pictures to produce Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, based on a story by Final Fantasy creator and Final Fantasy TSW's director, Hironobu Sakaguchi. It was going to be the first of a range of photorealistic CGI movies. Dun dun dun. So, contrary to popular belief, its failure wasn't why the company ended up merging with Enix to create Square Enix. It actually put merger talks with their old rivals on ice for years because they didn't want to risk going down with them. Dun dun dun. Number 2, Enix still publishes manga today, or manga. Gangan Comics was a hit. Hero Man, still to this day, I guess. Pretty cool. And number 1 is Rebellion Development's bought Judge Dredd 2000 AD Comics. It's been a hit. Sonic the Comet. Judge Dredd's former company also published Sonic the Comic, the British alternative to the Archie Sonic the Hedgehog comics. Interesting. Cool. Go over and check this out. There's more details. We just do a quick overview of this, but I think that you'll appreciate it more by going over to Game Rant and reading the minutia of it.
I like that one because it featured things that you don't see in other places.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. Because you'd have to go searching pretty hard to find these things. And you wouldn't even know they were there. Yeah. And you'd have to, like, you really do have to go over, and if you're really interested in this, other than the 60,000 foot view, you're gonna have to go to the site and read the more.
Or like if you're really interested in a company because you like their products, you'd have to start digging around and go, oh, what else have they made? Oh, it's in a completely different area.
Now I want to go find the Sinclair C5 electric scooter. So the next article is over in ohmTown Daily, the rise of the audio-only video game. I'm just going to jump straight on over to TheVerge.com. David Pierce is the author. The deck statement says, The Vergecast, the past, present, and future of games without pictures. It's actually a podcast kind of a thing, so I can't really say that much about it because I haven't listened to the entirety of it. Not all video games need... And this is the weird thing about it. Not all video games need video, so it's not really a video game, it's an audio game. Over the years, games that exist only in audio have taken players into entirely new worlds in which there's nothing to see and still everything to do. These games have huge accessibility implications, allowing people who can't see to play an equally fun and equally immersive game with their other senses. And when all you have is sound, there's actually even more you can do to make your game great. On this episode of the Vergecast, they explore the history of audio-only games with Paul Bennon, who has been in the space longer than most. So Bennon and his team at Something Else made a series of games called Papa Sangre, and that were among the most innovative and most popular games of their kind. Basically, an audio game, and it says why the iPhone 4 was such a crucial technology achievement for the games. So they go into greater detail about this, but they talk about gaming in darkness, and that there's a second
Oh, so
version
the
of it.
name is as dark as I thought. The sangre means blood, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Terrifying world made entirely of sound, which I may have to watch and listen to this. I may have to go and find it. I
You may
think
have
that.
to evacuate the rest of ohmTown when you do that.
Yeah, really. Well, to give you a picture of, so I listened to the audio books of the Sandman. There's a couple of Sandman books, and at one point, Sandman consumes something, and it's very juicy and crunchy. And I had dozed off, and so at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's still playing, and something happened, like there was a scream or something in the book, and I woke up, and I hear the Sandman crunching on something, and they tell you
Oh
what it is.
no.
At that particular moment, right when I woke up, they tell you exactly what this crunching, smacking sound is, and you're like, this is why I woke up. So this will be fun to listen to, and I'm not sure how it all plays out because I've never played an audio only game. They talk about from Polygon, Blind Games, the next battleground, and accessibility. There's a bunch of stuff in this article that's really neat. And they have a trailer and a thing called Blind Drive and Fear, FEER. So this might be something to pursue. If you're interested in this kind of a topic, then definitely follow the link. Go check it out.
I didn't even know there were audio only games. I think I'm glad this came across ohmTown.
Yep, pretty neat. So let's go. The next article is over in the Marble channel. Who's the father for these baby animals? One doesn't exist. Charlotte the stingray was pregnant. Got some explaining to do.
I think we saw something about that one.
Yep. We actually talked about it, I think, a while back. Bird Pinkerton put the article together, but it is a new article. It's over at Vox.com. More animals can occasionally reproduce asexually than scientists realized, and
are they all budding?
well, yeah, like Mogwai from Gremlins.
Oh, gremlins, yes.
Yeah. Or from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the biology teacher's wife, who created asexual reproduction. That teacher's wife. So the most likely answer is, according to most researchers, that no one is the father. Charlotte, they believe, has produced these embryos solo in a process known as parthenogenesis, a form of asexual reproduction. As the aquarium explained in a video, Charlotte's unusual pregnancy isn't predictable, so researchers aren't sure when they will give birth. But also scientists test Charlotte's progeny. They may prove to be the first documented case of facultative parthenogenesis in her species, the round stingray. So mystery solved, except Charlotte's story actually points to a bigger mystery that some scientists are puzzling over, not so much how animals like Charlotte are getting pregnant by themselves, but as to why they are doing it.
Well, I'm assuming it's for evolutionary purposes, right? Continuation of the species.
Yeah, you would think nature finds a way, right? But what is the trigger for that? That's kind of the interesting thing. You'd have to take a blood sample.
Point is it something like they hit a certain, I don't know, biological age or something, then that happens? I mean, it's interesting.
One researcher that the author spoke to, Warren Booth at Virginia Tech, told them that they once believed parthenogenesis was pretty rare in snakes. Then he published a paper about parthenogenesis in one species, and suddenly snake breeders and researchers started sending him specimens and accounts of parthenogenesis from all kinds of reptile species. Quote, I had a freezer full of parthenogens just chilling out, they told him. Eventually, he changed universities, but until that point, he claims, I had 100 and something parthenogens that were still sitting in that freezer. Interesting.
So, I mean, I guess they're much more common than known, even among the researchers.
Yep. Because when do you know it's going to happen as part of the species? Because how many
Well, and
times
where
are
do
they?
you witness it, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to see it. If you encounter an adult in a species, it could have occurred before you were observing the animal, or same thing, you observed too early.
Yep. Right up until we have sensors that are constantly monitoring, which is an impossibility in our era. I would probably say we're 200 years away from like a constant blood test apparatus. I mean, the closest we have is blood glucose, where you can test it in real time, for diabetes. I don't know if we have any real time testing for anything other than that. That's actually quite fascinating. I'd have to look into that. So they go on for quite a bit, but I'll just
One of
encourage
those did talk about like animals reaching maturity, and then it occurs. But then there was one that didn't fit that mold. Like, they'd apparently had offspring previously and then went through this at a different point, which is a whole nother mystery.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that. Sorry. It was funny in my head. All right, let's keep going. The last article for ohmTown Daily News shows solar storms are disrupting farmer GPS systems during critical planting time. Earlier today, I spoke to somebody that's in Florida that said that they saw the northern lights last night.
I mean, that is ridiculous, right? Because the United States isn't, other than Alaska, is like almost never in the area to view northern lights, and Florida is extremely unlikely.
Oh, and they told me that somebody from they had spoken to somebody last night that was in Louisiana that saw it. So,
wow,
pretty amazing. The solar storms that have been wowing people with the northern lights across the United States the last 2 nights have also been disrupting GPS satellites. Oh, by the way, while we were talking, their computer shut down and restarted. So yeah.
So there must be something to this.
And they said that there was no storm or anything. So I'm like, well, maybe it was, the solar storms. Anyway, crippling some Midwest farmers' operations, reports 404 Media, which is really funny. File not found.
I know, I like that. Do you think they hunted around for a story from that source for this article?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of funny. The issues have forced many to stop planting just as a crucial planting deadline for corn farmers approaches. It's weird that something would be considered like a crucial planting deadline. Why would nature be that absolute that you have to get it all done within? But I don't know what the time
it's a matter
is.
of days sometimes, although I thought that more for harvest than the actual planting. But
and even that, days days seems extraordinarily short for harvesting something. But I suppose not, because it's going to take days to process it and get it out to whatever. So how can it be really that crucial? Although I've gone into stores where they've got fruit in bags, those nets, and it's like rotting right there. Somebody needs to go and filter through all of this. Anyway, the storms reportedly knocked out some GPS systems offline temporarily, which messed up the accuracy of the real-time kinematic, or RTK, systems. Tractors from John Deere and other brands use RTK for centimeter-level positional accuracy when carrying out farming work like crop planting and fertilizing. And they have to, because they have to follow
so
those
this
tracks.
is like a lost art, right? Like, people don't know how to do it by hand.
Oh my goodness. Well, think about this.
I mean, think about the ground they need to cover.
Exactly. Yep. And that's actually one of the problems that I have with massive farms, in that, it produces a whole lot, but they're a one-stop failure. If something happens to this process, you're out an entire crop, versus if you have a whole bunch of micro farms everywhere, but then supposedly things go up in price. Well, no, the profit goes to the family farms, not to stakeholders who are investing in the company and expecting dividends and profits from the company. And it's not going to the C-suite. This is the big problem here. We have to keep family farms alive, and generation after generation now are failing to keep it either in the family or keep it at the small family level. They always get scooped up by some mega corporation. So a single point of failure. It's a horrible weak link in food security. So the extremely compromised systems caused drastic shifts in the field, which and even some heading changes for those who continued planting during the outages, according to a warning from Kansas and Nebraska John Deere dealer Landmark Implement over the weekend. So while this has been going on, people have been planting, and their tractors are driving off planting stuff in Kansas
I mean,
instead
that
of
sounds
Nebraska.
funny, but that could really be a problem.
Yep. And I haven't heard anything yet, but the what are they, the communication satellites, the little Starlink satellites.
Starlink. Mm-hmm.
The last time there were massive solar flares, or CMAs, or CMEs, coronal mass ejections, there was enough solar wind created that the resistance from it pulled some of these Starlink satellites out of orbit.
I saw a reference in another article about that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually happening. I didn't read enough detail on it.
The NOAA says severe to extreme solar storms of G4 or higher could occur again today. So far, the storms haven't led to widespread reports of solar storm-related disruptions, though Starlink has experienced some degraded performance, as Reuters writes, while some on Reddit reported issues with flight systems or ham radio transmissions that'll create noise. In 2022, a storm knocked out dozens of Starlink satellites. Guess we'll keep an eye on it. Pretty wild, huh? Got to create those more robust systems. Okay, folks. So that's it for ohmTown Daily News Show. We are going to reset. We always drive like a solar storm down Main Street.
I thought it was going to be a John Deere tractor.
Like a John Deere tractor, and we end up in some other town because of the solar storms. I am Mayor Watt, and all around is the sentient AI from the future, keeping me out of trouble, perhaps. You want to say bye?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Be back shortly. We have 3 more shows for you tonight.
Yeah, we'll try and get reset in about 10 minutes. We'll see. Be sure to follow us here, twitch.tv/ohmTown, and over at youtube.com/ohmTown, and do a search wherever you catch pod ohmTown. It'll pull up all 7 of our shows, including ohmTown Daily News Show. That's this show. And the 6 others: Reality Hacker, Wanted, Warcrafters, The Continuity Report, Technology Today, and 4-Wheel Tech. See you soon. Solar storm.